This is a message to Americans, to BLM, Patriots, Constitutionalists, and any American who cares about your rights and our freedoms here in the United States of America. This is a mission statement. Behind me is the flag that was draped over my grandfather's casket when he passed away in 2021. I come from a long military family. My great-grandfather was gassed in France in World War I. My grandfather served in the Navy. My Uncle Ray served in the Navy in World War II. My Uncle Larry went to Vietnam and won the Purple Heart. He won't talk about it to this day. I was going to join the Navy myself the day before. My sister called me and said, please don't do this. You're not fighting for the freedom that you so desperately love. You're fighting for an oil war, for Halliburton. Don't do this. She talked me out of it. I had a lot of resentment for the military for a long time because the Joint Chiefs of Staff had become so politicized that they created a fake war to go to Iraq. A lot of you are supporting Colin Powell now. That shows the amount of ignorance we have in this country. He was a horrible, horrible, horrible war criminal. However, you celebrate him because of the color of his skin, because he's black. I have taken the position of supporting Black Lives Mattering because throughout the history of our country, what we have found is that black lives do not matter in the United States of America. That's because the laws were created against black people. Once a law is established in the United States of America, the rule of law is so strong that you can kill someone on camera if the law allows you to do it. However, I did not do this for Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter has no plan. There's no plan. I hear people who are veterans of this country calling for a revolution. Let me tell you something, friend. The day that revolution happens, there are men like me who will be standing against you, and we will not falter. Your body will fall to pieces before it hits the ground because the Bill of Rights is based on philosophy, the fundamentals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If you don't know the teachings of John Locke, of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, or Montesquieu, then my friend, you don't understand what the Constitution is based on. If you have not read the Federalist Papers, then you don't understand America. There's a lot of bad leadership in America on every different color spectrum. The problem we're having right now is the misinformation campaign. There's so much misinformation. People go on camera and they're popular and they say things that simply are not true.
About how if we overturn Terry versus Ohio, it would lead to most of the problems in the black community being solved. Now, before I get into telling you why that is just a bunch of bullshit, let's talk about what Terry versus Ohio actually is.
They're not true. They're making things up as they go. This past week, I was able to get involved with a bunch of these people who are influencers who have no purpose other than to build themselves up on the internet. They have no purpose, they have no vision, they have no dream. One of those persons openly told me that he has a 4-step plan after the revolution. Even if the revolution does happen again, there will be men like myself who will be standing in the line against you. Because the fundamentals of natural law is what our country is based upon. The reason why I've done this was for me. Because I was not created by the police. I'm not a savior for anybody. And if I am a savior for anything, it's for America. There has to be an actionable plan for us to get our liberty back. There has to be an actionable plan that can go through both the left and the right that will bring our country to the promise of the Bill of Rights. And that's what I'm fighting for the Bill of Rights, for our freedom. And if you're not for America, then you're against me. I won't tell you to leave because you got nowhere to go. Sit down, be quiet, and don't speak on things you don't know of. Am I challenging you? Directly. This past week, I faced some real adversity. I faced death threats. I faced my company being completely shut down. I faced one of my social media accounts being deleted that gets the message out that for us to get our liberty back, we must overturn Terry versus Ohio. I faced all these things. I won't stop. I will keep coming. I will keep educating. I will keep teaching. I will keep talking. I will work with, use, build, hurt, kick, punch, love, adore, appreciate, diss. I will do absolutely anything with any person to overturn Terry versus Ohio. If you can't understand that, it's because you don't understand the principles of liberty or the principles of our country. You may have heard of James Madison, but all you ever heard about him is he was a slave owner. You didn't hear that he was a genius. You didn't hear that he pretty much plagiarized Montesquieu's book, The Spirit of Law. If you haven't read any of them, then you don't understand what our country is based on. Don't feel bad that I'm challenging you. The book's available on YouTube for free. You can just listen to it if you can't read, or you can read and listen to it. Educate yourself. I went to Missouri to try to get Tina Slay Richardson justice for her son, Caleb Slay. Along the route of the mission, so many things happened that were untold that I had to put myself in a very hairy predicament. I had to manipulate people who were clearly small-minded, but they had a big platform, so that they would continue to talk about Terry versus Ohio. It wasn't hard.
Hold on. Let's
didn't agree
hear
to
her
this.
out.
I don't want to. I didn't agree to this. I agreed to talk to you. This is an ambush.
I'll get off.
Yeah, you should go. This is not fair.
Feelings,
That's a horrible thing to say to me.
I
care about your feelings. I care about your feelings.
Don't care about my feelings, so I don't care about yours. F your experience.
I have lived under the rule of white supremacy since I was born. I do not support black supremacy. I do not support white supremacy. As I drove away from Missouri, I listened to several videos on critical race theory because I had never educated myself on it. I listened to several videos on microaggressions.
I think what we're talking about today is some contestation and conflict over how you teach about race, racial hierarchies.
I do not support critical race theory, even kind of, not even sort of, because it's based on the premise that I am privileged because of my light-colored skin. When the truth is, privilege is based on not having the rights that are supposed to be and guaranteed by the Bill of Rights. That's where privilege comes from. When black people and brown people have to dodge police because the laws created make it so that they can't live a life to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then that isn't critical race theory. Those are laws that have been created against people of color. I've reached out to YouTube influencers, to social media influencers, to political persons, every single person across the spectrum who could possibly take up the cause of overturning Terry versus Ohio. What the poor leadership of BLM has done is convinced a large swath of the black population that I'm not only racist, but I'm against the black community. I support Black Lives Mattering because right now in our country, the laws that were created by a mainly white supremacy Supreme Court have crafted Supreme Court holdings that literally allow police to kill you on camera and get away with it. Is this happening to Black lives more than other lives? Yes. However, the Black Lives Matter organization has become a political fundraising arm for the Democratic Party. I don't support the Democratic Party. Over the past 18 years, I have talked to dozens and dozens of parents of dead children. One of those boys was named Brandon Ellingson. I spoke to Brandon's father, Craig Ellingson, on several occasions, half a dozen times after his boy was killed because of Terry versus Ohio. And we've built a relationship since Brandon was murdered that I consider and I value at a very high level. Is Brandon black? Is Brandon brown? Or is he white? He was white. How was he murdered? Terry versus Ohio extends into Sitz versus Michigan State Police, which changes the constitutional standard. I'm going to get into several laws later, but what I want to establish here is that while you may not have heard of me and you don't know me, I've been doing this for a very long time. There are people who then tried to create videos mocking what I teach, which was laughable, especially that woman in Utah who used to be the president of BLM. After I went on her live and I completely blew it on purpose, over and over and over again, to get them hyped up so they would continue to talk about Terry. You're talking about low-level thinkers here who really don't know much. After I hung up the live, or they hung up on me, she then said,
and especially when he comes in and all he ever talks about is Terry versus Ohio, when we have Tennessee versus Garner, we have Graham versus Connor.
We don't need to focus on Terry v. Ohio. We need to focus on Tennessee versus Garner. Let me help you. Let me share some knowledge that I have. Tennessee versus Garner is an extension of Terry versus Ohio. and you know more than me. She openly said during that interview, I know more than you do. And I just took it because I knew I was getting her hot, getting her riled up. And she talked more and more about Terry versus Ohio. To me, overturning Terry is worth my life. Is it worth yours? Do you know anything about it? For the first month that I taught lessons on understanding Terry, what I said was that in this year, this is what happens, and this is what happened to blacks. And then what happened in this year, this is what happened to blacks. I didn't read a single comment for the first month that I taught history. That's called a microaggression, which I read all about. You want to be so sensitive about a microaggression as your loved one gets hauled off to the dungeon? You want to be so sensitive about a microaggression that you can't hear the message of liberty and freedom? You have the problem. The fact that I got that rapper all hyped up, I couldn't have predicted he would label me a racist, and I shed a lot of tears over that. I cried a lot. I was very afraid that my reputation would be ruined forever. I also knew, though, that we had to incorporate constitutionalists and patriots because it will never get passed without the help of white conservatives. This idea of black supremacy, of Blackout Tuesday, and that we can do this just within the black community, you can't. You can't. And you won't, and you'll fail. You'll fail.
And he's trying to help the black community. No one sent for him.
Thank you. We are capable of running our own movements. We are capable of doing this. If white people want to come into this space, they need to come from a place of support.
Yes,
we do not need them to lead us. We do not need to be told how to run the movement.
Am I talking down to you? No, I'm telling you. I'm sharing, I'm educating. The reason why Harriet Tubman is surrounded with Isaac Hopper and William Lloyd Garrison is because she was also surrounded with Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She was able to do what she did because white people empowered her and lifted her up. Power does not cede power to the lesser power. It is uplifted. That's how it works. So this idea that we can do this just within the black community is false. Furthermore, the community does not belong to you. It simply doesn't. It's our community. It's the American community. Another gentleman made a video about Terry versus Ohio, and he said that even if we overturn Terry, Breonna Taylor would still be dead.
Let's say if we overturned Terry versus Ohio 20 years ago. Let me tell you what would still not have changed. Tamir Rice would still be dead. Fernando Castile would still be dead. Breonna Taylor, Atiana Jefferson, they will both still be dead. And so would George Floyd.
That's the leadership in the black community? Because that's false. There are two kinds of systems of law in the world. There are two kinds of systems. There is rule of law and without rule of law. We are a system based on rule of law. And that rule of law is so strong, it is so strong, once a law is established in our country, that all of these people can be murdered on camera. And because the rule of law allows it to be, they go free, the police go free who do it. And the police are living within the system as designed. So Breonna Taylor would not be dead. Tamir Rice would not be dead. None of those people would be dead. But your video was not only incorrect, it was pure ignorance. What an embarrassment. What an embarrassment. They shut off my funding apparatus that Jeff Lloyd and I took a year to build together. I sell a copy of this wall graphic. It's here, it's on my website, Delete Laws. This isn't the most updated version because this past week in Missouri, I was completely derailed. I spent a lot of time upset, confused, going through anguish and hurt. They cut off my funding apparatus. If you support the mission, go buy my poster, please. Go buy my ebook, please. People called me a grifter. Some people were calling me a grifter. A grifter is someone who does something for money and offers nothing in return. So right now, what I'm going to teach you are the 4 Supreme Court holdings that must be overturned for our country to ever have freedom again. I love this country. I would fight and die for this country, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now. By sharing the truth with you. Join me. Sign up at deletelaws.com. That's with a Z. That's with a Z. Help us get to the promise of the Bill of Rights that's never been true. It's never come true. This country is worth fighting for. The philosophies that this country is based upon are worth fighting and dying for. I will do anything. Absolutely, I would eat a snake if it would help overturn Terry versus Ohio.